Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Just making my face bigger here. So this is video number 2 for Monday, March 30th. And in this video, I just wanted to add on to the video about waste issues that we have currently on a global scale and on a national scale by just touching on some ideas about how COVID-19 is impacting both waste production and waste management. So obviously, we're in the middle of this pandemic. We don't have a ton of data that's been analyzed about impacts, but we can predict some. We can look at some impacts that have already happened. So the 2 articles I put up here are just 2 of many, many articles that you can find online talking about basically, 1, how much medical waste is being generated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which nobody's really against at this point. People need to be protected with gloves and masks and full suits if they're in a type of job that's like waste disposal or medical or any medical personnel. Of course, this is absolutely necessary, but nevertheless, it is creating a lot of additional medical waste that we will need to deal with. And some people are dealing with it right now, right? The person here in the white suit, sanitation workers, whether they're in hospitals or just collecting residential trash, they have a higher risk, just like medical workers, of being exposed to COVID-19. And so this is kind of shining the spotlight on a group of workers who we normally, in general, don't think too much about, right? They don't always get the most credit, the people who clean up after everybody. But the people, I just want to take a minute to think about the people who, for example, the janitors in hospitals right now, they're doing incredibly important work. The janitors in grocery stores, right? The janitors in doctors' offices, the janitors in schools as they prepare for schools to reopen. They are doing work that's going to protect everybody. And so we need to generate this trash, but we still have to then manage its disposal. So on the other end of the spectrum, there is a decrease in consumption because of the coronavirus. So we're generating a lot more medical waste, but we're also scared economically, and we can't go out as much. So we're generating less waste, we're buying less, and we're throwing less away. And this is not a graph showing that. We don't have that data yet. But what this is showing is a kind of proxy for consumption, which is energy use. And this is in China. And so what you can see here is that the thousands of metric tons per day of coal decrease, as it says on this graphic, which is from the New York Times. It says that coal dips down every winter as businesses close down for the New Year holiday. But this year, it never went back up, right? It's not following that trend that you see every year in the gray. It's stayed down to below holiday levels. And this energy use, again, can be used as a proxy for consumption because it means that it stands in for all of the things that we're not doing, right? We're not moving around as much. We are not buying as much. Factories are not producing as much. So this is going to decrease the waste stream, at least temporarily. Interesting to think about. And I just wanted to point out one area in which waste production might be increasing, and that's food waste, right? As people are buying out the grocery stores and buying out tons of food, not all of that food, there's no interruptions to food supply chains at this point. There's massive changes in demand, and that's what's clearing out the grocery stores. So people are buying not just cans of beans, like in this picture, but a lot of perishable foods, which they then aren't eating and are throwing away. So food waste is increasing during these times, which is kind of awful since we're all worried about food insecurity. And then one last thing in the end, I'm sure you've seen and heard and thought a lot about how the COVID-19 pandemic is changing your whole life, but changing the way in which you consume is part of that too, right? And I'd like to end with this kind of like little ray of hope here, which is that there's a lot of there's a lot of new articles popping up around there, around the internet, talking about how, as this author is saying, for the affluent, painful restrictions can be an opportunity to reorient toward more climate-friendly ways of living. So essentially, we've been having a really hard time forcing ourselves to change, but now we're being forced to change. And maybe when we all come out the other end of this pandemic, we can retain some of these changes and realize that it is possible to change some of these things. Okay, that's it for today. You can fill out assessment 2 which applies to this little mini lecture. It's very short. Okay, thank you all.